All right, welcome to New Orleans here, Super Bowl Radio Row, talking ball with Pat Leonard on the Believe Network, brought to you by Boom Chaga, Mushroom Super Drink, Sal Loretta for Men, Luxury Menswear and Tailoring, Estate 98 Coffee, and My Bookie Sportsbook. And we are here with super agent. There's no other way to describe him, Leigh Steinberg, the one and only. Leigh, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
So you just recently announced the Leigh Steinberg Foundation. Could you explain why you've created the Leigh Steinberg Foundation? What is its purpose?
You know, Pat, I had a crisis of conscience back in the late 1980s, representing half the starting quarterbacks at that point. They kept getting hit in the head. And we would go to doctors and ask, how many is too many? When should we contemplate retirement? They had no answers because the brain was the last frontier of medical research. So we held the first concussion conference in 1994, and that had Troy Aikman and Warren Moon and Steve Young and Drew Bledsoe listening to neurologists talk about it. And we've continued on holding those conferences. What we found is that 3 or more concussions occasion an exponentially higher risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, premature senility, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and depression. So I've called it a ticking time bomb and an undiagnosed health epidemic. So we've continued to have brain health summits, which we'll be having at tomorrow's Super Bowl party, my 38th. And we set this foundation up to raise money for more research. The good news is there's a couple solutions that can actually, through neuroplasticity, heal a concussed brain. And one of them is called neurofeedback, and the other one is called RTMS, which is magnets against the head. So that's the good news, but we want to have money set aside to help people at risk who can't afford brain treatment and to do more research. So if you're interested, go to LeighSteinbergFoundation.org.
All right, doing great work there. You mentioned at that time representing half the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a lot of egos to manage there, Leigh. How did you do that back then? How did you make sure all your clients were happy, and then also, foster, cultivate more success in their careers? That's a lot of pressure on one man.
Well, I ended up representing 64 first-round draft picks in football and another 50 in baseball, and 8 of them were the very first pick in the first round, and 12 of them in the Hall of Fame. It was screening them to see if they were willing to be role models and retrace their roots to the high school community, set up a scholarship fund at the high school or Boys and Girls Club, or work for a church. At the collegiate level, set up a give back where you are part of that community. And then at the pro level, a charitable foundation with leading business figures, political figures, and community leaders to execute a program. So that's work done putting the 200 single parent and their family in the first home they'll ever own. It's Patrick Mahomes with his 15 in the Mahomies. So it was by carefully cultivating players that had good values and wanted to make a difference in the world.
What is unique about Patrick as a player in person?
Well, first of all, as a player, you can see it on the field. The whole key in football today is acquiring a franchise quarterback. It's really impossible to win and get to the Super Bowl without a franchise quarterback. Let's define that as someone you can build around for 10 to 12 years, someone you can win because of rather than with, and most importantly, in adversity. The quarterback's thrown a couple interceptions, the crowd is booing, the game's getting out of hand. Can he compartmentalize, adopt a quiet mind, tune out extraneous influence, and elevate his level to take a team to victory? Patrick seems to have the unique ability in critical circumstances and in adversity to elevate his level of play and take a team to victory. He's got unique vision. He can see around him in a pretty unique way, a little better than our eyesight is. and a pristine work ethic, so that what you see is his performance is a tip of hours in that playbook, hours working out with the other players, hours of taking care of his body. Um, and if you like him on the field, you love him off the field because he's still grounded. He's not all about himself. He'll ask you if he ran into you, Pat, how are you doing? And what's going on with
Treat you like a person.
So he's and been a great role model.
One stat that jumped out to me this week that multiple people have mentioned, you alluded to it there, is essentially the data shows, every player, quarterback, they have touchdowns, they have interceptions, mistakes happen, but then they bounce back. Patrick, over the course of his career, has gotten to the playoffs and he stops making mistakes, largely.
So part of that is he has what we call an eidetic memory. So he can remember every play back to high school that he ever played. And if you can remember every play, then you can correct the mistakes you make. So he'll throw an interception and that will be vivid in his mind, and he'll think through every way in which that happened and how to prevent it again.
Interesting. How does he feel about and react to, like, once you start beating everybody all the time, you become the hunted, right? Like the Patriots once were. The Chiefs are now the new Patriots. How does he embrace that?
I think he's just so hyper focused on the team's performance and his own performance. It just goes by him. I don't think that he's internalized yet that they're on the verge of history. We have a phrase that we use, that I always use with him, which is called stay in process. Instead of thinking about ultimate results, keep doing the things that will get you there. So they're playing a football game on Sunday, and granted, the Super Bowl's become the convention of Americana, big business, politics, sports, entertainment.
Really
but he's playing a football game, and it's all about being at his peak, and so he'll think about that. I mean, it's been funny to me, the people who are sort of pushing back against dynasty. These key figures on Kansas City are a little different. They're actually nice, okay? I mean, you got Andy Reid with Fumblerooski. You've got Travis Kelce, who's a card, and you got Patrick, who's humble and nice and all about his teammates.
Right, interesting. And jumping to another personality in this game who I think adopts and has a lot of the qualities you described in Patrick, and also in those clients you said you screen, the franchise QBs involved in the community. How do people respond to this person? Do they care? Do they treat people right? On the Eagles side, Saquon Barkley is that. And I got to know him very well covering the Giants in the NFL and in the New York market. And now he's had that immediate impact with the Eagles. What do you think of what you've seen from him? Like how quickly he has impacted not just what they've done on the field, but how the locker room appears to respond to him as well.
Well, I think the first thing is that might be the worst executive move I've seen since Babe Ruth left Boston and went to the New York Yankees. How could you let an irreplaceable player like that go to a team in your division? I don't get that. I thought myself that Saquon Barkley was the MVP of the league this year. And if you really look at the effect of a single player on the team, I mean, he's it. And there's this pre-prejudice against running backs and devaluation, but he was the guy, and he's a culture changer. In other words, his work ethic and the way he relates to other people, his humility, means that you put him in a locker room and other people will look up to that and follow that. And he's a dynamic force. I am more worried for the Chiefs about Saquon's impact of the game even than Jalen Hurts. They're both important, but the point is, when he's on like he was a couple weeks ago, he's just unstoppable. I mean, he's indefensible.
It's really something else to see, especially seeing what he would flash at times in New York. And now it's not like it's a great comparison with Babe Ruth because Saquon is a home run hitter now in Philadelphia. It's literally what he is, and he seems to hit a home run 60 to 80 yards every week.
And what happens is, he'll get the extra yard. So he'll get 7 instead of 5. He keeps doing that, but then every once in a while, boom, he'll break it, and he's like a force of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned at the start, he's a super agent here, Leigh Steinberg, and you are in the flesh, the real life Jerry Maguire. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what was it like having a movie made that was based on your successes, your life, and then participating in that movie as well?
So Cameron Crowe, the director, called me up back in 1993 and asked if he could follow me around and pick up atmosphere for a movie that would center on a sports agent. He went to the NFL league meetings that year with me when I was showing off players. He went to draft day with Drew Bledsoe as the first pick. He came up to the press conference with Bill Parcells. He came to pro scouting day, and over a course of about a year and a half, I told him lots and lots of stories. And then he
Great.
wrote the script. I was technical advisor, so I had to vet the script to make sure the willing suspension of disbelief that holds you in a motion picture wasn't broken by bad dialogue or a bad look on the set. And then he had me take the actors. I took Cuba Gooding Jr. with me down to the Phoenix Super Bowl and made him pretend he was a client all week to put him in role. And
That's excellent.
yeah,
Behind the scenes
I
there.
actually had to show Jerry O'Connell, who played the quarterback, how to throw a spiral because he had gone to NYU and they didn't have a football program there. So it's been 27 years, Pat, and as I arrived at the New Orleans airport the other night, someone ran up like they do every day and shouted those 4 words, "Show me the," to me. So they either asked me to say it or they say it to me.
That's beautiful. Yes, obviously an iconic movie based on an icon. All right, so a few sponsored segments. First, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink presents Here Comes the Boom. So, Leigh, this is turning our attention to the Super Bowl game, Super Bowl 59. Which non-obvious player do you think will make the biggest boom impact in this game? So, figure we take out Patrick, Saquon, and maybe a guy like Jalen Hurts. Everyone else is on the table.
Xavier Worthy.
Oh,
because he's a deep threat and he's multi-talented and he's the fastest person on the field.
Love it. Speed kills. Look good, play good. Brought to you by Sal Loretta for Men, luxury menswear and tailoring in Bergen County, New Jersey. So I want to look at your Super Bowl party upcoming tomorrow. Sometimes I'll ask people in this segment who's like a player that dresses well on game days, but I want to know what's going to look good and feel good about this party on Saturday. I know you always have something special cooked up for everybody.
It's at Jazzland. It's at the Jazz Museum.
Yeah.
So the theme will be jazz. We're raising money. We're going to move a family for the National Urban League, which is our sponsor, to the first home they'll ever own. We're doing the Brain Health Summit. We're giving humanitarian awards to Gail Benson for philanthropic things off the field, to Sean Payton, the coach of Denver, to Drew Brees, Mark Morial, head of it's the same thing. I want to say before we get off the subject, I believe in mushrooms. I think they're essential for health. And I have a client, Jake Plummer, who's spent a lot of time in this mushroom. So I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, no, we're going to give you a free bag of Boom Chaga. Honestly, it has been so popular just at the table here, free samples, all that. It has blown me away. I didn't even recognize how popular and how much you get the feedback. Someone will take a sample, and then the next morning they come back and they say, that really made me feel good, or can I have another one?
Well, it's funny. Of course, I went to Berkeley in the 60s, and we knew all about mushrooms.
That's right. That's right. You knew long before everybody else. And finally, our final segment is Pat's picks with My Bookie Sportsbook. All right, Leigh, this is it. Putting you on the spot. Who's going to win Super Bowl 59 and why? Eagles or Chiefs?
I think it's going to be an exceptionally tight game, just like Buffalo, Kansas City was. I think it's even Steven. But if it gets tight and close, I'll bet on Kansas City 31-28.
31-28 Kansas City. And Leigh, as for being such a special guest, we got a free bag of Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink for you. So, like you said, you're excited to try it.
Well, it'll power me through my party tomorrow.
Hey, you're going to need it. A couple bags of it. Yeah, let's get it for you. Thanks so much.
I may need to mainline it.
Exactly. Thanks so much for coming on, and enjoy the party.
My pleasure.